Today we're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about something called function overloading, and then we're going to do some more work with objects. Function overloading is when you have multiple functions with the same name, and the Java compiler figures out which one to call based on how you're calling it. There are two different ways we can overload. The first way we're going to look at is how you can overload based on the number of arguments only. So we looked at the maxNum function before. I've written this a couple times in a couple ways. So maxNum of 5 and 10 to return 10. But we also had the maxNum where I said 3 arguments, right? You can put both of these in one program. So let me start with this. I'll do public static int maxNum. I'll take my num1 and my num2. I'll write this with a ternary, num1 greater than num2. We're going to return num1, otherwise we're going to return num2. If you don't remember how ternaries work, just accept that that's going to return the larger number. I can run just this one first, and I'll see 10 get printed as I expect. I can write another maxNum function for 3 though. If I run this right now with the 3 version, it's going to give me an error. Actual and formal argument lists differ, meaning I'm trying to call it with too many arguments, which makes sense, right? Because I have 3 here, 75 and 10, and this one only takes 2 ints. So I'm going to add another function called maxNum also that takes 3 ints. Public static int maxNum, num1, num2, int num3. So now I have num1, num2, num3, and I just want to turn the maximum of those 3. I know I assigned this once and I got all kind of crazy ways to do it. The easiest way is to just get the maximum of the first 2 and then get the maximum of whichever that is with the maximum of the third. So return the maxNum of the first 2 and the third one. So I can run this now and I will get the right result. So when I call this with 3 arguments, it's going to come up here with num1, num2, num3. That's going to call the 2 argument version, which is going to come down here, return the largest of the first 2, and just compare the largest of the first 2 to the largest of that one. So each maxNum here is actually calling through to this one. So this is what overloading means. It means you have something that is overloaded. The name maxNum is overloaded to mean multiple things. So when Java hits line 11, it sees this maxNum and it looks and it sees what I'm giving it. I'm giving it 2 ints. Okay. It's going to look at everything it sees, every function that I have called maxNum, and figure out which is the best match. This one takes 3 arguments. Obviously not a match we can use. This one takes 2 arguments. That's our best match. The way to phrase this is when it first starts, you have a list of candidates. Everything with the name maxNum is a candidate, and then it selects the best candidate to call. The easiest way to figure out the maximum of 3 of them is just get the maximum of the first 2 and then compare that to the third one. So like I have 70 and 5 here, and then 10. So we have 70, 5, and 10. So I say is maximum of 70 and 5. That same overload resolution step happens where I look at all the candidates, I pick the best one. Even though I'm inside the 3 argument version here, but I'm calling the 2 argument version. So this one actually calls this one. So that's going to pass 70 and 5. Comes down here and that's going to return 70. So this whole expression is going to evaluate to 70. Now I'm saying maxNum of whatever this is at num3, which is going to be 70 here and then 10 here, which again calls down to this one with 70 and 10 and returns the larger of those 2. So I get 70 as my final result. So you could separate this out and say first max equals maxNum of num1 and num2, and then replace this inner one with whatever the max of the first 2 was, and then the third one. So this is the first way we can overload. We can overload based on the number of arguments. So now we have a maxNum that handles 2, a maxNum that handles 3. If you wanted, you could write a maxNum that handles 1 argument, which just returns the 1 argument. There's one more thing you can overload based on other than just the number of arguments, and that is the types. So this is great if I want to find the maximum of some ints, but what if I want to find the maximum of a couple of doubles? Can't do that right now. Say I want to do 20.7 and 15.33. If I run this, I'm going to get an error. Incompatible types can't convert from double to int. So again, Java's looking at all the possible candidates. I'm just trying to figure out the best one. It looks at this one and says, I can't possibly use this. This is 3 arguments. It looks at this one and says, this is my best candidate. I still can't use it because these aren't ints. What we can do is add another overload of maxNum, which takes 2 doubles and returns a double. So I'll write public static double maxNum, double num1, double num2, and then really I can do the same ternary expression here, and that'll give me the maximum of 2 doubles. So now I see that 20.7 in the middle. So once again, Java's going to see the maxNum call. It's going to look at all the candidates. We have 3 candidates now. They're all highlighted. So it's going to be this one, it's going to be this one, or it's going to be this one. The double I'm talking about now. So on line 18, first maxNum, can't use that. It takes 3 arguments. I'm only giving it 2. Throws that right away. Then we look at line 8 and line 12 for the other 2 maxNums. Each of those take 2 arguments. So we look at the type of what is being passed to maxNum, and we see one is 20.7 and we see one is 15.33, and we select the best choice. Now since we're taking 2 doubles, since these are both doubles, I'm going to select this overload. I'll call the double version and then return whatever that result is. The last overload I want to add is going to be something that works on an array of ints. So I also want to be able to just have int brackets nums, put in a bunch of values, and then get the maximum from that array. So I just added these 2 lines. I want to be able to pass an array of ints to maxNum and then get the maximum number from that. Now again, if you copy this and try to run it, you're going to get an error because there is no overload for an array of ints right now. To get this to work, yet another overload for maxNum. This time, it's going to take an array instead of just taking a couple of ints. So public static int again. What am I going to write inside the parentheses? So I want to take an array of ints. Someone got an answer for me? Int brackets, call it nums. Now I have to do our find largest algorithm. So we've written find largest before. It's the first step in find largest. Int largest, and what are we going to start that at? Not 0, because what if we had an array of all negative numbers? 0 would be the max. Assume that the largest one is the first element, because if there's one bigger than that, then we'll just replace it. If it is the biggest one, then we won't replace it. Whatever. That's what we're going to start at. Now we're going to look each element in the array. So for int e in nums, we need to replace the largest if the current element is bigger than the largest we've seen so far. So how do we do that? If e is greater than largest. So if that's true, I'll say largest equals e. All the way at the bottom of the function, I'll return the largest, because now at the bottom of this guy, the largest will be the largest I've seen out of all of them. And there we go. I get the 300 from the output down here from this call. So at the bottom here, a creation of an array, line 2, I added another overload that takes an array of ints. All right, so regardless whether you have this or not, we are going to have to move on to some more object stuff. All right, so once again, we're going to do this in project mode. We're going to have multiple files. So I'm going to hit that plus sign over here, just into project mode. Then I'm going to click continue to confirm that yes, I do want to be in project mode. So now I have my main.java tab here. I'm going to hit that button again, add new file. We have file 1.java. Today we're going to be writing a book class, book type. So we're going to say capital B book.java. So we should have our main.java over here and our capital B book.java over here. Public class book. That's going to say we're creating a new book class, and we're going to give our book 4 things, and they're all going to be private. So we're going to have a private string title. We're going to have a private string author. We're going to have a private int for the publication year, and we're going to have a private int for the number of pages. Private int year, private int num pages. I'm going to have to write a constructor. So my main, I'm going to do the giver. Yeah. New book. We're going to give it the title, the giver. I'm going to split this over multiple lines. Author, someone hit me with the author of the giver. Publication year, let's say the number of pages is 203. So now we have a new book. If I try to run this, it's not going to work because I don't have a constructor written. So we have book the giver equals new book. Now in the book class, we're going to need to write a constructor that makes this all work. What I want you to do is write a constructor that takes these things. So you'll have a init title, init author, init year, and init num pages, and you'll set this.title, this.author, this.year, and this.num pages. So remember, the way you write a constructor is public followed by the class name, and then all your arguments, and then the body. That's the URL for the student class if you want to look at something to refer to. Our public book is going to have initial title. So init title will have the initial author, init author. It will have init year, and then init num pages. We always capitalize the first letter of our classes. Capital B book, capital S student, will be lowercase variable. Then inside of here, I'm going to do this.title equals init title, and then just do that for everything else. Now I have a book class that I can create objects of, but I still can't access any of this stuff. I can construct it, but I can't do anything with the book. I want to be able to inspect it later in my main and be able to do stuff like system.out.println, the giver.getTitle, plus, and then the string by, and then a plus, and then the author's name, the giver.getAuthor. If I run this, it's obviously going to say there's no such thing as getTitle, there's no such thing as getAuthor. So again, we need to put those getters in like we did for student. So if I want to getter something that gives me the title, how would I write that? I want to implement getTitle so that this works. Public string getTitle, string. Okay, I could do this, but this is a little roundabout when I could just do return this.title. That'll give me a getter for title. Now what I want you to do is write getters for the author, the year, and the num pages. So get author, get year, get num pages. Public string get author, return this.author. Now that should work, and then I'll fill in the other couple. Forgot the parentheses there. And then I can print out the year here as well. Other system.out.println year, colon, and then the giver.getYear. Year 1995. So again, this is like when we're creating a new scanner. You'd say new scanner, parentheses, system.in, that's your constructor call. So a really common use case for overloading is having multiple constructors. So yes, we can create a book with the title and the author, but sometimes we don't have all that information or we want default set. So I can create a second book. Let's call it Harry Potter. I'm going to call it HP and whatever. And then for the author, I'm going to write JK. And I'm not going to give a number of pages. I'm not going to give a year. If I run this now, I'm going to get an error similar to what I was getting with maxnum when I was writing it, where I call maxnum with 3 arguments, but there is no 3-argument version, or call maxnum with doubles, but there's no double version. So what I want you to do now is write another constructor. So you're going to overload the constructor and provide one that just takes the title and the author. That's going to initialize year and num pages both to -1. So you're going to write a second constructor that just takes the title and the author and sets this.year and this.num pages both to -1. So that when I say book Harry Potter equals new book HP and whatever in JK, I'll give me a new book with that title, that author, but for year and num pages, I'll get -1 on both. You might say, why would you want -1 on both? It's not the best thing we could do, but it's better than not setting them to anything, because if we don't set them to anything, they'll initialize to 0. Setting them both to -1 is a nice way to indicate to someone later that this was never set. I never set the number of pages. I never set the year. Because if I say year equals -1, I mean, I guess that's possible. It's like some ancient text, but if I see num pages equals -1, then I know, okay, this is an invalid thing. And clearly there aren't -1 pages in the book. So you're going to add another constructor, an overload for the constructor. I've seen a few people do things where they're writing new get titles, or making new private instance variables. You don't need either of those. The things that you write at the top, this is what I want created every time I create a book. So a book has a title, an author, a year, and a number of pages. It's not going to be a different title. It's not going to be a different year. It's the same num pages, it's the same year. It's just a question of what you're setting them to. So you don't need another private int year somewhere for it to be -1. The constructor is just telling you what these 4 things are going to be set to. The first thing I need in my constructor, obviously public book. String, init title, string, init author. Now this object still has the same 4 things. It's just a question of what I'm setting them to. So this dot title equals init title, this dot author equals init author, and then this dot year equals -1. I'm just setting that to -1 because I don't have anything else to set it to. I can't write init year here because there is no init year variable. So -1. This dot num pages, I will also initialize to -1. A question I've seen is, why do I have to set these at all? Well, if I try to print out some information about Harry Potter, I can still ask it, how many pages do you have? So I can print out Harry Potter.num pages. It has to return something. Sorry, Harry Potter.get num pages. So when I say Harry Potter.get num pages, that's still going to return the number of pages in the book. I see that -1 as the last thing that gets printed out. That's coming from the Harry Potter book. The next thing I want to talk about is something called a setter. We saw in the lab yesterday why we want to have getters, why we don't want to just expose things as public. Like with the bank accounts, you can do .withdraw, you can do .deposit. You can't just reach in and set the bank account balance to whatever you want. People could change their balances directly. They can give themselves a negative balance. They can do something terrible. So instead we have that withdraw and the deposit. Those are the 2 gateways. So we can put whatever we want inside of withdraw and deposit to make sure things are valid. We can add authentication to make sure someone enters a PIN number or whatever. Sometimes we do want to let people set things. We just want to control how it happens. So we already have these things called getters. You might know where this is going. So I've created Harry Potter with the name HPN whatever written by JK. Maybe I want to change the name of that. Maybe I want to say Harry Potter.set title and adjust the title to be Harry Potter and the Chamber of whatever. So set title, Harry Potter and the Chamber of whatever, and then print out Harry Potter.get title. This set title is the next method I want to write. It's going to be public, of course, because we want it to be accessible from outside the class. It's going to be void, because if I look here, I'm not using the return value of anything. I'm just doing something. I want this to change the title. So public void set title. I'll take the string, I'll call it new title, and then I will say this dot title equals the new title. So from my main, where I say Harry Potter in the Chamber of whatever, set title passes this title right here, the new title variable, and then I change the title to that. Oh, so close. Missing semicolon of all things. There we go. So now I see the new title printed out, and I can use this to change the year, I can use it to change the number of pages. So up here I have set title, and I have this thing in the main that uses it. What I want you guys to do is fill in the setters for everything else. So set author, set year, and set num pages. So down here, these are my getters, and up here, these are my setters. Public void set author, string new author, this dot author equals new author. And then I will have one last one. We're going to briefly talk about something called reference semantics versus value semantics. I'm going to create a second function. I'm going to call it public static void func. It's going to take some int var. It's going to do var plus equals 10. Down here in my main, I'm going to say int num, set that equal to 20, and then do func of num, and then system.out.println num. I can write this different and then ask the same question. So if I do var plus equals 15 here, and then I have a num equals, let's say 50, func num, which then takes that variable, adds 15 to it, and then down here I'm printing it out. So what is this going to print? It's going to print 50. Going to print 50 because when I call func with num, it's passing a copy of it. So I pass a copy of it, var is that 50, var is its own 50, and then I add 15 to that, so that goes to 65, but that doesn't change what's down in the main. This effect here is not going to be visible to the num because var is a copy of num. All right, so given that, let me cut out a bunch of stuff I have over here. So let's say I have the same thing where I create this book, The Giver. Then I say public static void func, I take a book, and then I do book dot set title empty. Down in my main again, I'm going to to call func with the giver. I'm going to say system.out.println the giver.get title. What is this going to print? So I create the book. I call func with the giver variable. It's going to pass the giver up here. I'm going to say book.setTitle empty, and then down here I'm printing out the title of the giver. So when I call func with the num, everyone was like, yeah, this will print 50 still because it's changing the copy, right? Using that logic, you would think this is going to print the giver, but it doesn't. It prints empty. So this is where we have something called value semantics versus reference semantics. I have two functions. I have func and I have main. In the version with the integer, I have a variable called num. I set that equal to 50 to start. Then I call func. That gets its own thing, var. Var is going to be equal to 50. After that, I'm going to do var plus equals 15. So that increases var to 65. Then when that function exits, I'm just printing out 50 that's in main because it was a copy of it, right? It was a copy, so it doesn't modify the original. Let me explain what happens here when I'm doing it with books instead. Inside of the main, I have this thing, the giver. The way this actually works is the giver, the variable the giver, holds a reference which points out somewhere else to where the book object is somewhere else in memory. And in here is where I have my title and my author and my year and my pages. So the title is the giver, the rest I'll just leave blank. When I pass it here, I have this book variable, which is a copy of what's stored here in the giver variable. But since the thing stored in the giver variable is actually just like a pointer, it's a reference to another thing, copy of this is another reference to the same thing. So the thing actually stored here is just the memory address of what's here. So the copy of this thing is just a copy of the reference. So then when I do .set title, I'm changing the thing that they both refer to. So this, the giver down here, actually gets changed to empty. And then that's visible here because they're both referring to the same object. So when you pass a primitive, when you pass something like an int, a char, double along, it will copy the thing and effects will be visible. But when you use objects, you get something closer to reference semantics. The changes you made will be visible outside of the function call. Hard concepts, we'll come back to it again. Class dismissed.